Super Rugby Australia and Aotearoa. Both the favourites got the wins they were looking for. Maybe the margins were a bit, I don't know. That Crusaders one kind of blew out at the end if you watched the game, but I'll go over there in a minute. And the Brumbies looked like they were going to go by a lot more than they did, but they kind of took the foot off the gas in their game. So to start with the first one, the Highlanders against the Crusaders. Two teams that traditionally don't like each other very much. Both the two teams from the South Island of New Zealand. And with the Highlanders at home, traditionally that's where they perform a lot better. It was an interesting game because it was tight right up until the end, until the Crusaders did what the Crusaders do. And they just kind of ran away with the game. 40 points to 20 looks like a bit of a hiding, but you got tries 80 minutes, 77 minutes, and that's really what the killer was for the Highlanders. It didn't start that well for them. The crowd looked pretty good. And still not sold out, but pretty good crowd. Fair few away fans there for the Crusaders, which was pretty good to see. Dan Leonard-Brown went down for the Highlanders early, which was a bit disconcerting. And their scrum did seem to be under a bit of pressure. Eventually, though, the Crusaders got the first penalty of the game to make it 3-0. And then the Crusaders had a big scrum. They got a penalty, a 5-metre line-out. They threw it a bit loose, but the Highlanders couldn't still quite exit to get really out of jail. And Will Jordan, man, you got to remember that guy's name because it's only a matter of time until he is in a black jersey. Honestly, he is just class. He goes over in the corner. The TMOs look at it, but it's all good. They missed the conversion, and it's 8 points to 0. Worst news for the Highlanders is that Josh Dixon goes off injured as well. So Wetton comes on, and Wetton has a pretty good game, but it's just unfortunate for the Highlanders that had to happen. 19 minutes or 20 on the board. Frizzell actually gets a try to put the Highlanders kind of back into it. He did go through quite a few bodies. Check the highlights out. They did TMO it to make sure, and it was given. I think there had been 11 faces in the build-up, and it's 7 points they had at that point. So kind of back into game-on territory for the Highlanders. You can't let the Crusaders get away, and that's what they were doing. It was almost another one a couple of phases after the kickoff, though. It's that man, Will Jordan, again. He puts through a little grubber kick, and Taylor seems faster than Michael Collins, at least in that clip. I don't know how much of a head start he had because they only showed it like once on the replay, but yeah, anything Will Jordan touches seems to be very, very dangerous. So they got away with a bit of a one there. However, 25 minutes, Purivai gets a try on the right wing. Aaron Smith with a line break. Some good fast ball from the Highlanders and a great sideline conversion makes it 14 points to 8. So the Highlanders are actually in front. The lead changes. It's the only, it's the first of two lead changes, I guess. I just made an adjustment to my notes because the Crusaders do go back in front. The Crusaders were in front to start with. Highlanders go in front, but you know the Crusaders are going to come back. They kick a penalty on half an hour to make it 14-11. Another one a couple of minutes later make it 14-14. However, the Highlanders do sneak one over just before halftime to go into halftime with a 17 points to 14 lead. So you can see how many points the Highlanders scored in the second half. And it's not a lot. Halftime stats though. Run meters 219 to the Highlanders, 138 to the Crusaders. Possession pretty even. Maybe the Crusaders were slightly more territory at 55%. Penalties conceded though is a bit of a killer for the Highlanders with 8 conceded. So even though the Crusaders don't rack up their run meters, they're able to kick their way up the field, and only 3 conceded for the Crusaders. Second half, it gets a wee bit messy for the Highlanders. So Crusaders get a try through Christie. It's a great build-up. There's a possible yellow card for Parkinson looked at, but because the Crusaders go on to score, the ref's like, nah, the offence can just kind of go by the wayside because Enor was held back by Parkinson in the build-up to that one. But yeah, they still scored it, and it goes to 21 points to 17. So the Crusaders back in front, and they wouldn't relinquish the lead from there. They should have. They absolutely should have. Like, if you are going to beat the Crusaders, you don't have to be perfect, but you have to be pretty close. And you can't gift points, man. You can't just have a sure thing try and not get it done. And that's what the Highlanders blew, man. They had a try for all money. They had, I think it was Nardeki. He had 2 men outside him. Mo'unga is the last defender. All he has to do is pass it, like draw Mo'unga in and pass it to score a try, and then put the Highlanders right back in the game. But he holds on to it, just like maybe he wants to dummy and then sees Mo'unga is still coming and then throws the pass, but he gets tackled. The ball goes backwards. They do go back for a penalty, but it's a sure thing blowing. Absolutely blowing. So, yeah. Pretty disappointing from the Highlanders, man. You can't be throwing away points like that. And then 60 minutes, Severis goes over in the corner. Drummond's pass, it was I think he cut out 1 or 2 players with that pass. It was slick stuff, and Reese absolutely criminally casual with how he goes over. He knows he's got time to get the ball over in the corner, and it's quite an acrobatic little try, but he does it like it's his job. I guess it is. And yeah, so it makes it 26 points to 20. There's a streaker on the field at 67 minutes. That seems to be a thing when you're playing down in Dunedin recently. But yeah, 74 minutes, Mo'unga misses a penalty to take it out to 8 points. And to be fair, I should have mentioned this earlier, is that the Highlanders' defence, because the score is tight, man. It's 26-20. The Highlanders' defence keeps getting them out of jail, especially in that second half. So credit to them for holding out for as long as they do. Mo'unga misses the penalty, so it looks like it's still game on. But then, eventually, the Crusaders keep running it back at them, and Christie gets another try to make it 33-20. And as the Highlanders kind of try to do something on full time, who does it but bloody Will Jordan, man, on 79 minutes and 55 seconds. At the death, there's a loose ball. He chips it through and regathers it, of course. And he's got too much gas. He goes over for a try, which is converted. It's a bonus point try, which in Super Rugby Aotearoa could be huge. And it's 40 points to 20. Big away win for the Crusaders over the Highlanders. They really dropped some points at the end. Full-time stats, run meters 349 to 474 to the Crusaders, so they really turned that around. Possession and territory, the Crusaders had 64% possession, 67% territory, largely in the second half. Tackling percentages for both sides were not that great, 80% for the Highlanders, 78% for the Crusaders, so that's one area maybe a little bit of concern. Penalties conceded was 13-7, so the Crusaders almost half the total of the Highlanders, which is good for them. But Will Jordan, 8 defenders beaten, 125 run meters. Yeah, Dylan Hunt had 18 out of 19 tackles for the Highlanders, and if it's not for the likes of his effort, this game would have been over a lot earlier. But the Highlanders hung on right till the end, and then the floodgates kind of opened in the last 7 or so minutes. So, yeah, it's unfortunate for the Highlanders that the scoreline looks the way it does, but that's the thing about the Crusaders. You might be able to keep them out for 75 minutes, but by the 80, they're often going to get your number. So it does set up a really interesting clash with the Crusaders and the Blues next week, because both sides are 3 wins on the trot. So that's going to be a fascinating one. And, yeah, we'll have to wait and see how the Chiefs and Hurricanes go. But not ideal for the Highlanders, that is for sure, to drop points at home. But like I said, good effort, even if the scoreboard doesn't look like it. The next one, the Brumbies against the Rebels. Now, this is the game where the Brumbies are supposed to mop the floor with the Rebels, essentially. That 4-pack is supposed to get absolute dominance, but they don't necessarily do it. Like scrum time, the Rebels, they got all the all the dominance, at least with the whistle being blown by the ref, he was certainly saying that the Rebels were doing a better job than the Brumbies. So it's a close game, which we like to see. But at times it looked like the Brumbies were absolutely going to run away with this one. And it was a bit ugly, especially after this one to go to this one. She wasn't pretty in the first 40, 50 odd minutes. But it did get better. And you got to remember, this is round 4 of Super Rugby Aotearoa. This is round 1. And round 1 of Super Rugby Aotearoa was filled with penalties, even if the quality of footy was pretty decent, I thought. This game was a bit of a mixed bag, but I think it was a pleasing finish to see how close it was. Muirhead went through with maybe the try of the match early. It was a nice little set play after a line out from the Brumbies. A little inside ball back to Muirhead, and he just ran through a gaping hole. Went over pretty much untouched to make it 7-0. Tamua kicked the penalty to get them back in touch 7-3. He missed another one that went pretty well wide. But he did get another one later to make it 7 points to 6. So that's after like 23 minutes. It's 7 points to 6. It's tight. And it looks like it's going to keep going that way for most of the game. But I just realised that my board's only just fitting in the frame. But anyway, the Brumbies did get a try through Folau Fainga on 37 minutes. I missed the one from Powell. Powell's one was from the back of a maul. And you're thinking Brumbies maul, they're going to go over and it's going to be Folau Fainga. But actually Folau Fainga's one's not from a maul. It's Powell's one that's from a maul. The maul just gets held up a couple of meters away from the line, and Powell, being a good scrum half, he sees his opportunity, he goes over. Just gets the ball on the whitewash, but it's a good effort from the Brumbies. And then Fainga's one just comes from a sustained period of Brumbies pressure. So after, just before half-time, it's 19 points to 6, and they are looking pretty comfortable. And remember I talked about the match maybe not being the prettiest to watch. You're looking at run meters 124 to 71. So again, double digits for any team is not great for 40 minutes of rugby. Knock-ons were 7-2 though, and that's kind of what was keeping the Rebels in the game for large periods. Was the Brumbies' hands, which is pretty terrible. Possession was 54% to the Brumbies, 57% territory to the Brumbies, so they were dominant, and their tackling was 93%. The Rebels 83. 93 is a phenomenal effort. That's kind of like test match level. Penalties conceded was 8 apiece. So it was pretty hefty in terms of the number of times the ref was blowing the whistle. But like I said, it's round 1. Tom Wright gets a try for the Brumbies in the second half. It's a proper backline move. Lolosio gets a line break down the left wing. And he draws and passes like the Highlanders weren't able to do in that previous game to get the try. So it's 24 points to 6. 24-6. And it's looking like the Brumbies might put 50 points on the Rebels. The pitch does look really slippery. There's multiple guys kind of falling over. And it's looking a bit messy. But then suddenly, I don't know what happens. The Rebels finally wake up. They go through phases. They get held up at the goal line, which means it's a goal line dropout under the new rules, which was good to see. And then 58 minutes, though, Uelisi gets a try. It's from a line-out maul, which you'd think it's going to be the other way around. It's going to be the Brumbies doing all that. One thing about the Rebels is their forward pack did kind of show up. So they got a line-out maul. It went about maybe 8 or 9 meters. Uelisi goes over for the try, so it's 24-13. And then it's not long later. Dane Halapeti gets a try just after the hour mark. They had numbers after phases, and that makes it 24 points to 20. So it's game on. Rebels kick a penalty, 24-23. That's at maybe 10 minutes to go. Brumbies have been really asleep. They've switched off. The Rebels have kicked it up a notch. And you're wondering which way it's going to go, but the Rebels kind of take their foot off the gas a bit. Maybe nerves start to come in. They give away some silly penalties. The Brumbies win a scrum penalty, which was a change in the flow of the game, because up until that point it had been all the Rebels. And then 76 minutes, the Brumbies maul goes over, and it's Miller who gets the try for them. So it's 31 points to 23, and that is the way it finishes. It finishes with a bit of a a bit of a letdown for the Rebels because they go on a bit of an attack, but they can't get it done. Brumbies get the ball, they kick it long, and Korobedi ends up knocking into touch. So, yeah, it's a bit of a out with a whimper after all that good comeback to put themselves in that position. The Rebels just fall away at the end. So, yeah, it was a tight finish. Like I said, it looked like it was going to be a proper hiding, but credit to the Rebels for coming back into it and at least making the game interesting, even if they didn't get a bonus point in this one. Run meters 412 to 264, I guess, shows how the dominance of the Brumbies. Penalties conceded, though, 17 to 12. That's a high penalty count, with more going the Brumbies' way in terms of penalties conceded. And scrums, 3 from 5 for the Brumbies, 6 from 6 for the Rebels. That's one area you didn't expect the Rebels to get the dominance. Tackling percentage, the Brumbies managed to maintain 93%. The most defenders beaten any one defender got on the Rebel side was 2, and that was Korobedi. So remember I said in the first game, Will Jordan got like 8. So, yeah, and one of the Brumbies players got, I think it was Hansen, got 7. So, yeah, the Brumbies defense really was on point. But, yeah, the Rebels couldn't get their line out quite right. The accuracy was not there. Brumbies couldn't get their scrum right. Some of the handling was poor. But overall, pretty interesting watch. Kind of went the way we expected. But, yeah, hopefully the skills will get a bit sharper as we get a few weeks in. Like this game's been on for a few weeks. So, yeah, it's just going to take a bit of time for the Aussies to get that proper match fitness. But, yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts on the games. How did you think they went? Any surprises? If you're a Highlanders fan, I know you're pretty disappointed. Likewise, Rebels, because you came so close and then couldn't get it done over the 80. But, yeah, both games were close, which was good news. And, yeah, I'm going to go to bed. I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.